Good morning to each one of you. On behalf of the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, we welcome each one of you to this webinar on digital transformation trends in higher education today and tomorrow. In time like this, we need to stay connected and stay positive. This session has been organized under the aegis of Industry Institute Interface Expert Committee of BCIC. We like to specially thank Dr. K. N. Subramanya, Chairman of the Industry Institute Expert Committee of BCIC and Principal of RV College of Engineering, Bangalore, and Nitin Garg, Co-Chair of Industry Institute Interface Expert Committee, BCIC, and Founder and Director of International School of Management Excellence, for curating this session for the benefit of our members at this crucial period. The speakers for today's session are Dr. K. N. Balasubramanya Murthy and Dr. Rony G Kurien. I'd like to just give a brief profile of them. They are expert in their own area of expertise and their stalwarts. Dr. K. N. Balasubramanya Murthy, popularly known as KNB, who is currently serving as the Vice Chancellor of Dayanand Sagar University, Bangalore. Prior to this, he was the Chairman and Vice Chancellor of PES University, Bangalore. He is currently the member of Karnataka State Higher Education Council, Government of Karnataka, Chairman of the Board for IT Education Standards, Government of Karnataka, Chairman of Ranganath Center for Information Studies, Academic Senate member of Triple IT Dharwad, Ombudsman at Triple IT Bangalore, Academic Advisor Board member of Case Group of Institution, Advisory member Don Bosco Group of Institution, and Governing Council member of Cambridge Group of Institution. He has also served as a member of the academic committees of Vishweshwara Technology University, VTU. The other speaker, Dr. Rony Kurien, who is currently the Dean of the International School of Management Excellence, Bangalore. Dr. Rony has over 34 years of experience in education, business, development, training, and consulting. He has held senior leadership positions in various renowned educational institutions and business organizations. He was a director of Xavier Institute of Management and Entrepreneur, Bangalore, Dean at Ecole Hotels Lavazza, Pune, Assistant Dean at Indus Business Academy, Bangalore. He was also the regional manager for South Asia Randland Corporation, Sydney, and also manager for Karnataka and Kerala for the Australian Trade Commission. When at Australian Trade Commission, Dr. Rony was appointed as the lead for the IT team, regional coordinator India for IT sector. He is also currently the joint secretary of National HRD Network Bangalore, a member of the Indian Society for Training and Development, and CI. The session will be moderated by Dr. K. N. Subramanya and Dr. Nitin Garg. On behalf of BCIC, we express our sincere thanks to Dr. K. N. Balasubramanya Murthy and Dr. Rony Kurien for accepting our invitation to address this important subject. We would also like to thank all the participants for joining for today's session. We request all the participants to kindly mute your mic and webcam options. This is to enhance and keep the bandwidth strong as well as avoid any disturbance in the background. Please post your questions in the chat box only. Also be viewing the chat box for any specific instruction given by the organizer from time to time. The speakers will respond to the questions during the session, and in case time do not permit, we shall be sharing the queries to the panelists and shall revert back to you accordingly. Kindly note the organizers will be disconnecting those participants who switch on their mic or webcam despite of our frequent request. May I now invite Dr. K. N. Subramanya to set the context for today's subject and also moderate the session. Thank you once again to all of you. Over to you, Dr. Sir.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you, Prithvi. Nice introduction about very good two speakers we have with us today, who are their leaders in their own sphere. So one is basically from the technology side, other is from the management and governance side. So we specifically selected these two people to see that to get the technology perspective as well as the governance perspective, because as of now we are overwhelmed with the use of technology, but if you look into the long term, governance also becomes very, very important. Otherwise, this technology management itself becomes very difficult. So, keeping that in mind, myself and Nitin Garg, we decided to have the digital transformation trends in higher education, specifically mentioned it as today and tomorrow. So, let me tell you what is today and what is tomorrow. I think I'll take 5 minutes time to explain to you about these things. Meanwhile, Dr. Balasubramanya Murthy is my very close friend for a long time, and Korean also have met him in the ISME. So we thank you on behalf of the III committee of BCIC for accepting our invitation, sir. And we would like to have a lot of learnings from you. Basically what has happened is this pandemic has brought a lot of challenges and opportunities. So people always talk about opportunities, but the challenges are much more when you are trying to implement the things. So being in the higher positions, we will be knowing that. Other than that, the party who is on the other side always feels okay, there are more opportunities. But I feel challenges and opportunities are equal according to me. So if you take industries per se, I think what is today I will tell first, and what is tomorrow I will tell. So in industry, today is industry 4.0. So that means overall digitization of all the activities in the manufacturing sectors are being done, including robotics, IoT, analytics, big data, and this is also called as cyber physical systems. Industry 4.0 is also called as cyber physical system, and with the use of cloud computing. And these are all the technologies which industry 4.0 is using, and we will be the users of all these things as a higher education after some time. But what is today in education? Education 4.0. So as the name itself suggests, I think whole of the education system is taking a front seat, and a digital transformation is happening. I was just talking to Rony in the morning that if pandemic would not have happened, the online classes implementation across the country would have taken at least 2 to 3 years. So whereas now because of this pandemic, which has created opportunity, we would have learned all these things. May not be 100%, it is okay, but to meet the present requirements, at least 80 to 90% of the times, so we have got adapted to this online. I think this was expected, irrespective of whether a senior or a junior faculty in the institution, everybody has started using this digital transformation through online. So education 4.0 is today actually. So what is it expects? It expects anytime, anywhere. I think that's what we are doing now. And flexible delivery systems. Then role of a faculty is going to change in the future. He is going to become more of a facilitator, and peer and mentorship is very important. Then personalized learning is going to come into being, and experiential learning is given more importance. Modular and project based learning, then the student has to own it actually. I think many times student doesn't own. He would have joined many courses because of the pressures. So as long as he doesn't own, then he will not be in a position to do the things in a better way. And also we are in the examination mode of system. I think from there we are going to switch over to the evaluation mode of system. So while this today is industry 4.0 and education 4.0, what is tomorrow? I think we are not still prepared for today itself actually, according to me. What are the things which have been told in industry 4.0 and industry education 4.0, for proper implementation, according to me, it may take another 2 years in our country in the higher education institutions. Meanwhile, already across the industry and education, people have moved into tomorrow. What is this tomorrow all about? Tomorrow in industry is industry 5.0. So in 4.0, actually people were talking, okay, robots are going to replace the human beings. I think that is the, and employment opportunity problems will be there. But industry 5.0 advocates that robots cannot be individually working, and you cannot make everything automated. In fact, robot have to work with the human beings in cohesion. So that are called as cobots, collaborative robots, along with the human interaction is the order of the day. And in every activity of manufacturing, whatever they do, artificial intelligence is going to become like a now even in industry 4.0 they are talking about AI. But here they're talking about only machine learning. Whereas if you go to Industry 5.0, it goes to the deep learning as well as the reinforcement learning, which are much deeper in its analysis. So obviously, Industry 5.0 also advocates an optimal balance between efficiency and productivity by using the manual as well as the robotics. So this is Industry 5.0. So tomorrow is that, according to me. Maybe industries are very quick in adopting these things. You would have already seen in many good companies, cobots are working, collaborative robots are already there. So what is for us for tomorrow? So tomorrow is typically education 5.0. Already his people are talking about. Many countries have already started looking into 5.0. Those who are already in the process of implementation of education 4.0. What is this education 5.4 all about? In fact, in education 4.0, we were more bothered about the digital transformation of everything. But education 5.0 advocates future focused graduates with a global mindset. So that means global citizenship concept is going to come in education 5.0. And the things which are going to happen in 5.0 is organic curriculum. As of now, curriculum is dictated by the universities or the institutions. Maybe in future, people want to like a jigsaw puzzle. He would like to take which is there in the developed countries already. But in our case, I think the restrictions are more. So organic curriculum is going to come, and learning experience has to be felt. As of now, the skill-based, knowledge-based has to be enhanced, and transformative learning environment is going to be there as a part of education 5.0. And finally, inspiring educators. So as of now, what we are doing is we are in the manual mode of teaching, we are in the online mode of teaching, but keeping both the things into mind, how you can inspire. Because as of now, online is a passive kind of a teaching method. There is almost a one-way communication, except some people use higher end platforms wherein you can have a group discussions and things of that sort. So, and also innovative delivery. So these are the things which takes a lot of time. So that means AI, artificial intelligence, is going to come into the total education field in education 5.0. As of now, all the manual things are getting converted into the online mode, but education 5.0 is going to advocate artificial intelligence and use of augmented reality and virtual reality. In fact, I had been to Germany and I've seen they already have a AR VR labs in the mechanical engineering department. So that means AR VR labs in education and artificial intelligence in education will be the hallmark actually of education 5.0. One such example, I think 2 days back you have seen Geo Glass. So if you are looking into the Geo Glass, I think that is what is going to come to the future generation. In education 4.0, the student generation is called as the millennials. And millennials are nothing but people in the younger generation were born after 1985. Whereas what is this people who are born after 2000 are called as new millennials actually. So new millennial, I think they are now teaching new millennials according to me, because they're all 2000 means 20 years. So they are somewhere in second year and third year. So these people will be exposed to huge kind of technologies, and that is where the transformation is to happen. For which, how we are going to balance the technology as well as the governing all these things is very important. So that's why we made these as the two faces of the same coin: governance and the technology into consideration. And I hope I have conveyed what is today and tomorrow. And our leaders who are there here, who come as the speakers, are going to tell us in more detail about these things and what are India-centric issues and things of that sort. So with this backdrop, I request Dr. KNB Murthy. In fact, the procedure is like this. KNB Murthy is going to speak for half an hour. Then I request Kurien to speak for half an hour. And afterwards, I request Nitin Garg to look into the questions what have been asked by the people, and we will pose the questions to the speakers. Then we'll conclude the session, and Nitin will be doing the concluding remarks. I hope I have conveyed all the message to the participants. Thanks for participating. More than 100 are already there here. And over to you, sir, Dr. KNB Murthy. We are waiting for your lecture. Thank you very much once again for accepting the invitation. Thank you very much.
Good morning. This is my pleasure to be here. Is my screen visible? Is my screen visible? Hello? Hello?
So you are visible, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir, it is visible. Yes, it is.
Good morning. I take this opportunity to thank Professor Subramanya for inviting me to be a part of this webinar. It's my pleasure to extend my greetings to Dr. Rony G Kurien, a co-speaker, and Nitin Garg, who is going to do the moderation of the entire thing in terms of question and answers. I received the invitation from Professor Subramanya. I deem it as an honor and a privilege to get connected to all the participants who are here. I try to talk about the digital transformation in higher education. Before I exactly do that, I will talk a little bit about what is higher education, what is expected of out of it. Let us see whether digital transformation would do the needful in that direction. The agenda that I have thought of is to have few opening remarks, then talk about the core problem in higher education, possible solutions, life cycle of higher education, digital transformation trends in higher education, closing remarks, possibly take few questions if there are any. And as you are aware, the Indian higher education system is considered to be the best in the world for variety of reasons in the past. The many reasons are there. One of the critical reasons is that the Indian higher education system, the ancient Indian education system, used to provide all kinds of opportunities for learning. The second, the Indian higher education system used to attract people all over the globe to India for pursuing their education. Before we exactly talk about anything, we need to answer a few real questions. What are the real questions? Higher education is nothing but education that we pursue after plus two. After plus two, the first and the foremost thing that an aspirant needs to do is to make an assessment of what are the job opportunities. That's one thing need to be understood. Second, in which areas these job opportunities exist. Third, does the aspirant have a passionate area? What is the passionate area? What the aspirant has a passion. If there's a passionate area, identify that. Does the aspirant have a talent for that area? Some auditing must be done with regard to the talent, whether the requisite background is there for that area. Then what are the rigors of the study? How much of hard work needs to be put in? What kind of things to be done? And things of that type. Probably is also necessary to make an audit of the career choice. What exactly the person would like to do after the pursuing the higher education. There's one thing that needs to be looked into. Coming to the core problem in the higher education, I think I like this particular thing is a book written by William Dorasevic, an American author, essayist, and a literary critic. He has written a book on excellent sheep. I think he brought out all the kinds of things that are there in the problems in higher education. He mentions that the higher education system manufactures students who are smart, talented, driven, goal driven, but are also anxious, timid, and lost with little intellectual curiosity and sense of purpose. There's where there's missing points. Second, the, the higher education makes the student to head weakly in the same direction. Thereby, the current day students are great at what they're doing, but no idea why they are doing it. This is the problem that's been observed. Then the present is students think that education is all about doing homework, getting answers for that homework, acing the test, getting better grades, and quite often the minds and brains are not being used at all because the questions are not challenging to the students. The second, the students entering the elite schools are not used to any kind of failure, and they are always going to ace the examination to continue to succeed in whatever they're going to. They are always stressed and terrified by the fear of failure. That's the problem with the higher education. Of course, we also have helicopter parents, the parents at the top, hovering, pressurizing, criticizing, pushing them by saying that they are the future. Of course, nothing is mentioned about what are their futures all about. Next, the present higher education system is not leading fully to humility, resilience, self-reliance, independence of spirit, genuine curiosity, creativity, willingness to take risks and make mistakes. That's what is not being covered in our higher education system. Then build a self that's universally good. That's what Professor Subramanya was mentioning. It's a global kind of a platform or global kind of a scenario where we need to prepare. And the education system is failed to teach to think, not to take things for granted. That's one thing which we need to make. And the present education system is not making the students to live alertly, responsibly, freely, and fully. Majority of the cases, there may be one or two exceptions, but by and large, this is the kind of thing. Then, what are possible solutions? The possible solutions are don't force a specific program on aspirants. Quite often, we push the student to take a program of study because there's a job opportunity. The other things are not being taken into consideration at all. Job opportunity, the higher salaries are being considered as the key point. Focus on overall development is one thing which needs to be looked at. Then encourage collaboration, not competition. Unfortunately, our higher education system always competitive in nature. I think we need to change the paradigm to collaboration. The next thing is engage the students. Basically, engage the students, ensure that they are being given the kind of inputs and clearly tell them that what they're good at. Are they good at doing a job, a repetitive kind of a job? Are they good at doing research? Are they good at being an entrepreneur? That kind of audit has to be done and help the student to find their way. I think we need to be a facilitator to tell them this is exactly what are the possibilities. You choose the right path and don't make them gods. Basically, never ever tell them that you are the future of this country, you are the future of this family, and those kinds of things have to be stopped. Let them be challenged and provided with greater opportunities. We need to challenge them all the time so that they'll come up with better solutions and better uh, ways of doing things. Next, what are the challenges? The challenges in the present higher education system is that students come from various backgrounds and varied abilities. That's what we need to realize. Second, majority of them may not become leaders or visionaries. We need to understand that we should not push everybody to become a leader and a visionary because the ingredients and the components are not there with those kinds of students. Most of them look for a credential that leads to jobs, relatively peaceful living with no stress, usual career growth, and economic prosperity. Majority of the students belong to this particular class, this category. Then they want to recover their investment in education. That's what the majority of the students come to the higher education institutions with this kind of a mindset. There's a background that I would like to set before we exactly see whether the digital transformation would address some of these issues. I'm just trying to bring all these points to check whether the transformation, the industry, the education 4.0, education 5.0 would address some of these issues. Now, looking at the higher education, what are the life cycle? Life cycle is normally the kind of stages that are there in the higher education. The first one is the enrollment. Enrollment as student onboarding. And we all know that enough automation has been done in some of these kinds of things. We brought in the technology in this. The digital transformation has already happened in the enrollment scenario or enrollment stage. Curriculum design. The curriculum design of the past and the curriculum design of the future is different, wherein a student can design the curriculum for himself or herself, pick and choose, identify a career path, and find out what components are required, pick and choose this component, form a curriculum for that person, individual curriculum. The teaching learning process, right now the COVID-19 pandemic has pushed it to an online kind of learning. Again, mostly the learning of the future will be learn on demand, as and when required, learn those kinds of things. That is the kind of paradigm that we would come. Coming to assessment, we have incorporated enough digitization in the assessment components, and possible the most recent one is the remote proctoring system, wherein a student can write the examination from wherever he or she is in. Probably there's a camera of the computer looking at what the particular student is going to do. Is there any thing that's good abnormal while answering the questions? That's the assessment part of it. The last one is the outcomes. These are the 5 stages. Outcomes is placements, the entrepreneurship opportunities, the higher study opportunities, the competitive examinations, research careers, social development, and things like that. We need to understand there's a digital transformation is happening.
So here are 6 8 points.
Hello? Yeah. The digital transformation, if you look at the trends are like this. There's a constant in digital transformation which is never change and evolve. It's evolving and changing drastically. One trend that we see is that there's a personalized learning. Personalized learning means different learning types of students, the audio, video, games, analysis. The analysis of the individual learning is one paradigm that we see in the digital transformation. The second, there's accessibility, the best quality content available across globe with the speech recognition, voice to text, and vice versa. The transcription facility is available where the information is available for a particular student to learn. This is the second trend that we see. The third trend that we see is a blockchain where authenticity check of a document, storing the student personal data, learning performance in a distributed, secure, and a most effective way. Where a digital transformation has happened in the form of blockchain technology. Then the security, the campus safety, the cyber security with identification of suspicious user behavior are put in place. This is another transformation trend that's happening. Then there is the use of AR, VR, MR, and XR. MR and XR is a mixed reality and as well the extended reality. These are being used in the classrooms to create a more informative lessons, particularly in medicine and engineering, where the touch and feel kind of thing can be incorporated in the learning process. This is another digital transformation trend that we see. Then there's also big data and cloud computing technology, where better data management analyzes the performance or learning of the students. And as and when the student keeps learning, there's a way to identify, analyze whether the learning is complete. This is another thing that we see. Then there's a transformation that's happening in the form of AI and machine learning, which Professor Subramanya was mentioning. There's AI teaching assistants,
Sir,
AI
1
driven
minute, sir.
content.
Sir, KNP Murthy, sir, have you shared
Yeah.
your slides, sir?
Yeah.
But they are not in a position to see, actually.
Is it?
Yes, sir. Just check it, sir, please. Rupa, madam,
Yeah.
can you look into that? Rupa Madam or Prithvi?
Is it visible now?
No, sir, it's not visible.
Not visible, is it?
No, not at all visible. Rupa Madam, are you there? Or Prithvi?
Is it visible now?
No,
Sir,
sir.
slide is visible but not changing. Slide is visible but changing is not happening, sir.
Okay,
you
okay,
should
okay,
do
okay.
screen, I guess, sir. Share your entire screen and click on the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I'm doing it now.
So you share your entire screen and then you click on the PowerPoint. The slide keeps moving one after the other. While
Is it visible now? So is it visible?
No, it is not visible. I think you will have, my suggestion would be that you click on the screen icon once again and share your entire screen.
so you can actually stop the presentation and restart if you have the question on
It is
your
clear now, sir.
Sir, now it is clear actually. It had come.
Okay.
Is it visible to all now?
No, we can
No,
only
sir.
see the acronym.
No.
No. It had come, sir. Actually, it had come and it has gone.
Hello?
It came for a split second actually, and afterwards, yeah.
Okay.
Now it is processing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it visible now?
Now it is clear.
Yes, sir. Now
It's
it
very
is
clear.
visible.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
I'll continue with this.
Thank you. Thank you,
AI
sir.
and
Thank
machine
you.
learning is another trend that we see in the higher education, where there's a AI teaching assistants, AI-driven content, and the LMS answers to frequently asked questions. I think one university called Deakin University has put down about 1,600 questions, which is being answered by a AI-driven mission or AI-driven search engine. The chartback is another thing which is the new trend as a customer service to answer simple questions. As soon as the aspirant comes to the website, a chatbot would answer some of the simple questions. The standard questions are there, the answers are given. The curating and creating content now. This is the most recent trend that's happening, wherein video indexing tools are being developed to curate high quality course content. It's from multiple sources. All that is to be done is to collect the videos, small videos on the topic, put them together and try to have some kind of interface to ensure that the continuity exists. Then there's an IoT component that's been used. There's a smart classrooms, the assignments alerts. A student can have an assignment alert, webinar alerts, the temperature balance in the classroom, smart lighting in the classroom where a student can set the lighting to his or her convenience. That kind of systems are also coming into place in the classroom in the future. The next question that is to be answered is, a query answering agents may be a part of the course learning in the future, where any question that you have pertaining to a course, there is a query answering agent which will take the questions and answer the questions. Teaching robots may replace the teachers in the classrooms in the future. That's already started happening in some of the schools all over the globe, where a robot would take the place of a teacher. High quality educational content may be available in the digital form, where it's going to be available in multiple ways. I think we need to curate it and use it. Students may electronically learn from home and from workplace. Possibly the students coming to the classroom may reduce or may not happen in the future. That's the other trend that we are seeing. The next thing is students may earn course credits from multiple institutions through online and apply to a university for certification. It means a student will try to do one course from one institution, another course from another institution, probably apply to university with all the course grades. The present university and institutions may turn into certification agencies. The credibility of the certification agency or the university or the institution, the authenticity is going to be based on the grade point average being credible and reflective. The next thing is availability of digital certificates. This is the other thing that's going to happen in the future, where there'll be no print format or print copy of the certificates in the future. The virtual campus experience may become a reality where there's no need for a student to go to a campus at all. Obviously, you can have a virtual experience. It's already started in the recent past, where many American universities have offered admission to the students. They've been clearly indicated that they're going to learn online, but however, the campus experience is going to be virtual. Then the larger questions and concerns using the digital transformation are the following. How do you foster the individuality or the heuristic of learning? Each and every student has a heuristic of learning. How do we get into that? Then personally, the learning experience, how do you measure that learning experience? This is the other thing. Though there are few attempts that have been made, but unfortunately, it is not comprehensive in terms of measuring the learning experience of a student. How do we help students develop the passion? Is it possible for a digital transformation or the online kind of a mode to develop that passion in a student? How do we inculcate a sense of community and belonging, a sense of belongingness? And how do we do it in a virtual mode is another big question that we may have to answer. And how do we ensure development of soft skills in the online mode of instruction? If the online mode of instruction, it's very difficult to check whether the soft skills are being imparted to the student. And quite often, your experience in the last 3 to 4 months after the pandemic, I think many of the teachers are facing this kind of a problem where the virtual class is going on. There's a audio and a video button. How do we know whether the student has put both of them on or both of them off or one on, one off? Is very difficult to predict, and this is going to be extremely difficult. It's very, very challenging to ensure that we reach out to the student and the learning is complete in all possible ways. Coming to the closing remarks, digital transformation may remove the geographical borders in the future, wherein a student in one country can register for a course in the other country because it's all virtual. Degree requirements may be fulfilled in a discontinuous manner, wherein the student is going to acquire the micro degrees and the nano degrees, put all these micro degrees together to get a major degree. It all boils down to the credits earned from different sources and put them together, submitted to one entity or one agency or one university to get a degree. Eventually, the digital transformation should lead to the Indian kind of thing. If it's going to happen, that's the best thing that can happen. Learn at your own pace, because you're not going to learn in a faster pace that we have right now. The present day education system, wherein a BTech degree is 4 years, 8 semesters. I think we rush everything in those 4 years. Is it possible to bring in a mechanism wherein the student is going to learn its own pace? Seeing connections across disciplines is extremely important for us to provide an opportunity for the student to see the connections. Is there any link between a concept that is being learned in one subject to a concept in some other subject altogether, which is not related at all? Then the self-study component is completely missing in the present education system because most of the things are spoon-fed. Is it possible for us to bring in that self-study component, because everything is going to be virtual now, and the amount of time that's at the disposal of the student is much higher? Then the other thing is competency level learning. Competency level learning is, in the future, about 6 different characteristics features must be there in the competency level learning. What we are doing at present is either knowledge level learning or the skill level learning. Skill level learning will not give the background or the conceptual understanding. The foundations are a bit weak, but the skills are very good, skillful. Now, in the knowledge case of thing, you have the knowledge component or the fundamentals are very, very strong, but the skill component is missing. A competency level kind of thing also takes two other parameters. One is the talent. It means every student has a talent in one or the other. Somebody may be good in sports, some may be good in cultural activities. It basically means that student is good in something. That's what the talent is all about. Is it possible to extend the talent to other kind of things? Needs to be looked at. Persona. Persona is basically the attitude of a particular student. Means that must be considered. That also becomes critical for the learning. Persona, attitude means the way a student go to react to a question, react to a comment, react to an observation becomes critical of in the future. Then skill and knowledge is our two components. And the capacity. Capacity is the student have the capability or the ability to solve a larger problem? How do we break down into smaller components and connect the solution to smaller components to make the solution a bigger component? Capability. Capability is basically to solve a problem, to give an opinion as an expert. The expertise has to be obtained over a period of time by practicing. That's what we mean by competency level learning. This is exactly the kind of skills that was enforced in ancient Indian education system. Probably we are all aware that the ancient Indian education system was considered to be the best because it was addressing everything at the competency level, where everybody has been clearly indicated that you have capability to do things. The last thing I would like to recommend, please read the book on Educational Heritage of Ancient India by Sahana Singh, where the entire gamut of things, the way in which is being done in the ancient Indian education system is being highlighted really well. We need to be very proud of being Indians for whatever the best that we had in the ancient thing. In conclusion, I would like to summarize that the digital transformation must lead to a competency-based type of learning in a student so that the learning becomes complete. And if the digital transformation can facilitate that, I think we are on par with the best in the world. And I thank all of you for the patient hearing, and I conclude here with only one remark saying that the digital transformation is happening in all possible ways, and most importantly, it's necessary for the educators, for the academicians to pick up those transformations which will lead to the competency level learning. I stop at this point. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nitin, will you take over? Nitin? Okay. So, sir, thank you very much. We had a very good insight into the digital transformation and what are the challenges and opportunities we have. I think, Nitin, can you take it forward?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Subramanya. Wonderful setting and of covering what are the issues of the present and challenges of the present higher education system and certain issues and challenges which can be addressed through the digital transformation. And thanks a lot for this enriching talk. I would now welcome Dr. Rony G Kurien, and Dean of ISME, International School of Management Excellence, to talk about the aspect of digital transformation within the governance side of higher education. So over to you, Dr. Rony.
Yes. Good morning to all of you. Thank you very much, Professor Subramanya and Mr. Nitin Garg, for inviting me to be a speaker. We've heard Dr. KBN Murthy, who has spoken very eloquently on the digital transformation, the students' career choices, how you can learn at your own pace. And today, students have the advantage of studying courses from different institutes. I thought that was really a great insight into the digital transformation space. I'm, of course, going to speak on governance, but can you see the screen?
Yes,
But
we
can
can
you
see
fill in
the
the
screen. We can make it into slideshow, sir. You make it into slideshow.
Yeah, just 1 minute.
Yes, we can see the screen. You can make it into slideshow as requested.
Yeah, just 1 minute, sir.
In the bottom corner.
Yeah, just 1 sec. But 1 minute, sir.
No, please don't close it. In the bottom right corner. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
And you can see the screen now.
Perfect.
Yeah, great. So just to set the context, when we all know what's happening around us, the last 3 months has seen the rise and ebb of COVID, and we've been hearing news every day in the newspapers. The global pandemic has resulted in a major impact on our society. It has affected every segment in the world, and one such area, of course, is education as we see it. It has set up a lot of challenges to the teaching community. But I'm sure all of you would agree, all the academicians in the different fields have worked very hard to put a package to reach out to students who had already enrolled with us, who are with us in our institutes, and we have also put a package together for incoming students. The way we see, while we have the advisories from the UGC and AICT about the different dates till July 31st, we could allow students into the campus. And post that, of course, we have the advisories of August and September. We've all kind of got ready to even probably onboard the students, incoming students, in the next couple of months. So going forward, we are looking at a blended learning, which will actually become the norm. We have faculty and students who have become tech savvy. All of us are digitally attuned. When I was speaking to Professor Subramanya this morning, he was saying that online learning was more of a complementary thing, let's say even 3 to 4 months back, rather than a substitute. But today, the way things have happened, we are really relying more and more on online learning, and probably, hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So the online learning has become the new norm. So we are all becoming digitally attuned. We all have the digitization experience. We are all getting ready to and have the ability to work in a virtual environment. And this is also going to help our students in the future to assimilate into the industry much quicker. So we certainly are looking at all the hybrid options. And we just heard about the innovative methods of teaching with the help of technology. And even for our ongoing courses at ISME, we have seen that students have been very receptive and responsive. We have online examination tools. So now the attempt is not only to cover the syllabus, but also to create the potential to stimulate better learning. So while Professor Subramanya did speak to us about the Education 4.0 and 5.0, what I will attempt to cover in my presentation is on governance. In the next 20 minutes or so, on the impact of good governance, the digitization impact on governance at a board level, digitization impact on internal governance of institutes, the digitization impact on educational processes, and basically the life cycle of higher education. I know many of the academicians here could be from different areas. You could be from humanities, from science, from liberal arts, from engineering, from management. But I would base most of my experiences from the management space because that's where I have been, and this is what we will be covering in during this presentation. As you all know, Governance comprises the systems and procedures under which organizations are directed and controlled. It's a process of interaction and decision making among the various stakeholders involved in collective problem solving that leads to reinforcement or reproduction of norms and institutions. Well, I know all of us know it, since my next slides are going to go into specifics, I just thought I'll do a quick recap. And in higher education, it is a means by which institutions for higher education are formally organized and managed. The impact of good governance. Basically, good governance is all about facilitating decision making. Decision making which is rational, decision making which is informed, and decision making which is transparent. And this leads to organizational efficiency and effectiveness. And particularly when we need to optimize resources, one can see the need for this. It supports and fosters high quality education and research. So good governance, this is what it can deliver: high quality education and research. Digitalization impact on governance at the board level. So basically, you have a governing board, which basically is all the experts, eminent educationalists, well-known people from the industry, which we have at the different institutes, the executive leadership of the institute, the people who run it, and of course, regulatory bodies which we are used to, like the AICT and the UGC. And all of us really look at, particularly in these days, look at all their advisories and regulations that they come with in terms of the dates as to what we can do. Because as we move into the next academic year, we have to be, quite cognizant of what they have to say. So our sphere of influence helps in improvements which should make a big difference to the institutional performance. So what is a big purpose? The digitization aspect will actually create citizens who are ready for the future, who are ready for future industries, ready for future job roles, for future skill sets. And this actually impacts everybody from students, faculty, the staff, and even parents. And these are all the stakeholders that we have when we are looking at education. Just a moment, I'm just trying to move the slide. Just a minute, please. Yeah, digitalization impact on internal governance. So we start with academic committees. When you look at academic committees, in terms of benchmarking performance and in terms of reviewing the different academic activities, this actually is done a lot with digitalization, and that helps. When it comes to examinations, I think this was covered by the earlier speaker too. We are looking at AI-enabled proctored examinations. We have tools called OSM, which is online screen markings. We have platforms like Metal, which helps for conducting examinations. So there are just so many new things that have really happened, which we have embraced. At our institute for examinations, we use exam.net, and it's been quite successful. Again, for research, this opens a whole lot of new opportunities to kind of work very closely with other institutes, not only in India, but also in the US, in Australia, in UK, where earlier we would talk face-to-face. We are able to use, earlier of course it was Zoom, but with all the problems that we have heard of Zoom, we use Microsoft Teams at SME. But of course, like we could use GoToMeet, we can use the Cisco WebEx. There are just so many things that can be used in terms of the digital experience. And of course, the Internal Quality and Assurance Committee, this ensures that the quality standards are kept. Coming to admissions and public relations, the admission part of it, as we have heard, there are a lot of tools that are used for the entire admission process, whether it is the selection of students, AI used in terms of screening possible students, setting up the interviews. The whole thing is now being done through portals. Consulting assignments, placement and industry interaction. A lot of placement activities, in the future are going to be through case studies, which companies are going to use. to assess students, to screen students, and get them jobs. They would use hackathons, where you have situations where students can come up with possible solutions. I can say this with a fair amount of confidence in terms of how the companies are moving forward to look at possible placements. I also happen to be the honorary joint secretary for the National HRD Network, speak to a lot of HR heads of companies. And this is the way that they're actually going to see. And it might interest you to know that in the last quarter, most companies, and largely IT companies, the productivity has actually gone up by 34%. External affairs. What I mean by external affairs here is the tie-ups that we can possibly have with institutes abroad. But we deal with colleges in Australia, in Singapore, where professors are able to come online and deliver lectures, and vice versa from here too. So this is actually the digitization impact that has happened. We knew in the past that it needs to be done, but now we can actually see it in action. Infrastructure. Things related to infrastructure, whether it's vendor payments, and all that is actually digitized as we go forward. And coming to finance, the whole aspect of finance, because we are now moved away from a cash economy thanks to the government and its new set of rules. So the entire experience is digitized, whether it is the admission, the applications, the fees that is paid, the salaries that is paid to employees, the entire thing from revenue to expenses, the whole experience has now been digitized. Looking at the digitization impact on the other processes, we are looking at effective curriculum. When you look at effective curriculum, typically from our perspective, the way we would look at is, number one is the session plans, planning for the sessions. The second one would be the execution or the delivery, and the third would be the evaluations. Coming to planning sessions, it really helps. Like, we work very closely with Bangalore, so it really helps to kind of interact with experts in the different fields, as also with industry experts, primarily because earlier they would have to actually spend, knowing Bangalore, they have to normally spend about 4 to 5 hours commuting to our institute and then getting back. Today, we are able to take their expertise, understand industry trends, and get them to speak to our students, and all this can be beamed right into the classroom. And they can either do it from their offices or from the safety of their homes. Of course, safety in inverted commas, considering the situations that we are all in. So that really helps. Then when you look at the execution and delivery, we've been using Microsoft Teams, and of course there are a whole lot of platforms that are available and which are really in vogue now and used by many of the institutes. And when it comes to examinations, we use exam.net. Then, as I mentioned to you earlier, there is the Metal platform. IIT Delhi, I have read they are using the TCS IOL online assessment tools for their examinations. So people are increasingly using the digital experience for even evaluations. Merit-based recruitments. We are able to conduct interviews through a digital medium. We are able to understand the experiences people have had. We are able to talk to people across cities, and we are able to get their expertise into our classrooms. Standard teachers training. As I referred to this a little earlier when I spoke to Professor Subramanya, is that our faculty were not really attuned to taking digital classes. But I think the crisis that we are in over the last 3 months have really pushed all of us to learn and do more effective online training, because I think that also needs to be really inculcated into the faculty, because by the sheer fact that they were not used to in the past. And these days, of course, there are a lot of webinars, and we also insist that our faculty do X number of hours. It's mandated. And likewise, I'm sure in every college and institution, the teachers' training is really being done. Research and faculty development, that is also happening online these days. And as a result of it, what we are trying to ensure is quality education to our students. And that would certainly be the satisfactory outcome in these times. To do all this, we really need a powerful administration that makes sure, even if you're using something like a Microsoft Teams, the access codes are given to all the students are all enrolled. We'll have to kind of make sure that the students are attending the courses and they're able to retain as well as respond and be more responsive in terms of their learning. Appropriate use of funds, certainly these will be scarce resources at this point in time, and we are able to allocate the resources for tech-enabled tools to help all this process to take it to the next level. And certainly, as a result of this, there is a lot of accountability that has come in. I for sure, my experience has been that particularly meetings are really more focused and more result oriented. So that has been the digitization impact according to us on the processes there. Coming to the life cycle of higher education, and just to kind of sum up what I've been saying, whether it's the marketing of the program, whether it is application process, whether it is the selection process, you can use AI-enabled tools, whether it's interactive websites. Now, going forward, I'm sure all of us are looking at dates as to when we can possibly see students coming into the campus. While we keep looking at the newspapers and advisories, I think maybe it's not going to happen in the next month or so. So the onboarding experience this time probably is going to be online. So this entire onboarding experience is something for the first time that we'll be doing, but that's the way it is, and it's largely we are pushed into this because of the situation that we are in, but we are ready. The technology helps us to do that, and of course, particularly the orientation. If you have a refresher course or a foundation course, that can be done online. There are new platforms and learning management systems for delivery of lectures. And this also enables that in the event that a university or an institute may not have the capability or the platforms, there is this opportunity to collaborate with other platforms. And increasingly, I'm quite sure we're going to see that because there are some very good educational technology platforms that are able to create a lot of content. That is able to create a lot of interactive material which is rich in video and graphics, and that also helps for students to understand concepts and retain them. FTP and evaluations, and the readiness, which faculty has now got it over a period of time, it will only improve. Value-added programs and choice-based credits. There is an institute here in Bangalore which has actually got for skill-based credits about 1,050 seats, and that is and that's been allowed by AICTE in terms of the transfer of credits. So there is a whole lot of a shift that is happening in the marketplace when it comes to choice-based credits. Competitions by corporates, case studies, and pre-placement offers. Increasingly, we are all going to see it online because that's a new trend, and that's what is that's how the system is going to be. We are looking at simulation games and assessments, which corporates will also use. We are looking at integration and collaboration of platforms, online portals, as I mentioned. Hackathons and selections, which I covered earlier. And of course, a lot of webinars. I think even this one which we are attending gives an opportunity for us to interact with a lot of people in the same fraternity. And of course, this entire education system, and today, particularly when we are looking at the higher education for students, it is all about convocations and memories. And at this point, I would also like to mention that I was just reading a report on the gross education kind of review that they are having now. We are actually at the GER, we are at 26% as compared to the United States, which is at 85. and there is a study on this, and to take it from 26 to 35%, we are going to add about 25 million students in the next 5 years. There is no way we will be able to do it with brick and mortar institutions. So probably the way ahead would be e-universities and a lot of technology-enabled education. There is just a point that I have to make there. And of course, alumni associations, we all know in colleges, alumni associations play a big role, not only in terms of coming back and giving back to the institutions in terms of advice to young students, and also their learnings from the industry and sharing it back with the young students back in the colleges. So this basically is the entire digitization experience that we have seen over the last few months, and this is probably the way that we would be refining and improving as we go ahead. And of course, it will really affect all the stakeholders' platforms. So I would like to end my presentation here, and happy to take any questions that.
Thank you, Dr. Rony and Dr. KB Murthy. Dr. Rony, you effectively added to what Dr. KB Murthy had just, KNB Murthy had just talked about, and his focus was more on the students and the various things regarding the teaching learning process. Your focus was a little higher in terms of the governance at the board level, internal in the internal processes, and finally you concluded it by pointing certain different trends. So that's been a fantastic comprehensive session between all. I'm sure we have been receiving certain messages. I can start with a few questions which I have already seen on the message before, but in the meantime I would request people who have been listening to put in some message or some questions so that I can address it to the eminent speakers. The first question, I think I will give it to Dr. Murthy, is as it comes from Uma. Is digital transformation a threat to a teacher?
I think the people with higher order skills will see it as an opportunity. But for a normal teacher with normal kind of abilities, yes, it's going to be a threat. The people who are trying to improve on the knowledge skill components are the people who are going to survive. The people with the run of the mill may not survive in the future. It's going to be very, very competitive. It's going to be highly competitive. Therefore, yeah.
I would request people to put mute all those other than the panel speakers. There is some background noise, so requesting everybody to mute their. Okay, I'll go on to the next question. I think I would request others to put in their questions. We still have very limited questions, so requesting everybody to continue to put in their questions. But in the meantime, the questions that we have, I will get once again, Dr. Murthy. These were some of the questions which came in before Dr. Rony spoke, so I'm addressing them to you. Students after doing BE, MS in reputed institutions and PhD are still committing suicides and not able to face the realities of life. How this will be taken care in online digital transformation higher education system? This is from Padmaja KB.
Yeah, the possible solution for these kinds of things is to ensure that the student enjoys everything that's going to be done. That's exactly what I mentioned at the beginning, wherein you need to make an audit of the talent that you have, the career choice that you have, and it's extremely important for the people to realize that you are not going to get the answers to all the questions in a particular way. Therefore, we need to work very hard Therefore, hard realities life have to be understood, and the difficulty have to be faced, and difficulties must be considered as challenges. I don't think there's any need for anybody to have any kind of anxiety with regard to the career prospects. The career prospects are always bright for everybody,
Sir,
whether
give
it's
me feedback
engineering or
link.
whatever. Hello. Yeah.
Good point. I think before we continue, Dr. Rony, is it possible for you to stop sharing the screen because it's a blank screen? It can save a space. Some
Just
space.
trying. 1 minute.
Feedback link. Feedback link.
Okay. In the meantime, I will continue with the questions and out here. The next question is okay. One question to Dr. Murthy, and then I will give a few questions to Dr. Rony. How far the current admission tests like CET, MAT really measure the aptitude for entry into engineering or management programs?
I think all this, the entrance exams have brought into action, or they came into play when the number of seats were much lower than the number of aspirants. Thereby, it's possible to find out the elimination process. The entrance exam always elimination process. Therefore, the students who have practiced really well are the ones who are going to do really well. Therefore, it's necessary to understand that these are the tests for ranking rather than measuring any aptitude or anything. It's all about how quick you are and how best you are good at the subject. At few things, how much of practice that you have done is what matters. I don't think it directly reflects the ability of a student as such. Because the other thing also is that yes, 1 mark difference here and there would push the ranks 100 to 200 straight away. If student with 89 may get 5,000 rank, a student with 87 or 86 would get about 10,000 rank. Therefore, they're not going to really matter in terms of that because there's no band that's being fixed for giving this rankings. Therefore, it's normally called as test for ranking. Entrance exam need not be considered as, should not be taken as a measure of ability or aptitude of a student.
Good point. I think entrance exams, even if they are needed, I think will probably also need to be changed. And as the digital transformation journey requires many or different or other skill sets which students need to have. And to Dr. Rony now, and I think you were successfully able to close your screen, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
How do you convince Indian parents that these transformation and the challenges of convincing Indian parents that the fact that these transformations have arrived and the children should still join colleges within this context of transformation? This is from B. Satish Babu.
Okay, now, I remember reading an article on online education which came in India Today about 2 weeks back, where they actually they addressed this particular problem. One is, of course, to convince Indian parents, and if you're looking at higher education, let's start today, even school education, largely in the cities, it's all online education. So, if it is at the school level, which is we're talking about, class 1 to class 10, maybe even up to 12, which is happening online, it's something that we have to embrace. We have to adapt technology, and I think over
Prithvi, can you please switch off camera or sound systems of those people who are on and who are not supposed to be on? I request everyone to have switched off their sound systems.
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead, Dr. Ron.
So continuing on that, so your school education has largely moved onto the online mode in most of the major cities. So, and I'm sure there's always a resistance to change, and of course, one is of course to convince students, If you look at the Indian Mobile Association's report, as of financial year 2019, 451 million people have internet connectivity. All right, and probably second only to China. But that's only 36% of the population. So we do hear in newspapers about students, having a problem because they could not attend the school level online education. So increasingly, parents will understand, and I think all of us don't have a choice but have to embrace technology, and online education will now soon become the norm.
Good, Dr. Rony. One more question, Dr. Rony, from Niranjan S. Bhargava. For a master's program like an MBA, where real life experience is a key component for evaluation of a prospective student, how will an AI system analyze a student's true potential, assuming he or she doesn't have high grades but has good work experience?
Now, we are assuming, and God willing, that in the next few weeks or the next few months, we will be able to interact with students in a physical classroom kind of an atmosphere. Particularly when it comes to management education, there has to be a lot of classroom interaction because people come from different geographies, or with and having probably studied also in the vernacular languages earlier. And going forward, while a lot can be done in a digital AI-enabled atmosphere, we are hoping that in the next few weeks or months, there will be an opportunity for people to come into classrooms. But having said that, there can be a lot that is tech-enabled, because I think all of us didn't know even 3 months back that so much could be achieved by doing an online course, an online training, online faculty mentoring students. Well, this is the new trend, and I'm sure a lot can be done. Of course, this is not to refute what you have said, that a student may have had work experience, may not have had good marks in the past. How do you do it? Obviously, there will be some kind of a divide there, but hopefully things will improve over a period of time, and technology itself will mature enough to handle a lot of this. But let's hope that this COVID will be behind us in the next few months, and there is nothing like a classroom experience. But I'm sure in the interim, these are the things that will work.
Sure. I think every listener needs to understand that the context of this talk is not only today, but tomorrow. And tomorrow we are foreseeing that, yes, digital transformation will remain, but at the same time, COVID will go away, which means the students can be back on the campus, but perhaps in a slightly different format as covered by our two esteemed speakers. A few more questions to Dr. Murthy now. I think there are questions, most of these questions are effectively saying the same thing. Dr. Radha Krishna is asking how effective the assessment methods for students, and Dr. Sham Prasad is asking how to ensure ethical behavior of students in a digital framework. So assessment and ethics probably go a bit together, though there could be ethics in other aspects also. Over to you, Dr. Murthy.
Yeah, as far as this particular thing is concerned, it is necessary for us to understand that we need to set a assessment pattern or assessment paper in such a way that the student cannot copy at all. In other words, a lot of work needs to be done. We need to teach them differently and ensure that they're going to work on these kind of things in a different way altogether. In other words, we need to resort to what is called as open book exams, possibly open-ended problems. These kind of things have to be incorporated in our assessment methods instead of having the run-of-the-mill kind of questions which we have been doing in the past. I think we need to dispense with that. Unless we start trusting our students, it's going to be really, really difficult. Possibly we must make our students to take a oath in the beginning, saying that this is an examination. I'm aware there's a sanctity associated with that. I will not indulge in any kind of unethical practice to pass an examination. I think it's necessary for us to make them understand the importance of that. By and large, if we start pushing this over a period of time, we can expect ethical behavior among the students. I don't see any major issue with regard to that. I have tried out myself in the previous organization. Once you start trusting them, once you start giving them the kind of yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Murthy. And I think I remember the term which Dr. Subramanya used early, that instead of assessing, we need to evaluate. And I would extend it further to say that we probably need the best form of evaluation is real life project work on real projects. And one or two other questions. I guess we have some time. We'll probably close at 12.
Yes. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Now two people are talking about the same. Maybe again, Dr. Murthy, how do we ensure that students will be attending and listening? Is coming from Naga Kumar, and Pallavi has said that what can institutes do so that students can maintain consistency online sessions? So in a way, similar kind of questions. So I've just clubbed them.
I think it's necessary for us to educate our students. All that is required is, I don't see any major problem with any of our students. We need to tell them the way in which they have to put up their behavior to learn it better. In other words, it's also necessary for us to talk to the students and guide them properly, because many of the times what happens is student would have joined a course which he or she is not interested in at all. Therefore, it's necessary for us to give the counseling and ensure that they're in the right course, they have the right kind of skills. The auditing of talent is going to be critical, and most importantly, that's the beginning I clearly mentioned. The student must get to a course which he likes most or she likes most. That's the kind of thing to be done. All the other things get automatically fixed. In the absence of any of these things, you find a kind of behavior that we are seeing right now. I think a student with no liking for mathematics get into computer science is very, very tough for such students to do really well in a program like computer science. Similarly, a student with utmost interest in physics needs to get into mechanical engineering, needs to get into electrical engineering, because the physics becomes critical there. Therefore, it's necessary for us to tell the student very clearly what is required. If the gaps are there, we need to help them out. And most importantly, we must keep encouraging them, keep motivating them, keep telling them what they need to do to become better over a period of time.
Good. I think a follow-up thing which I will give it to Dr. Rony now. Pallavi mentions that how do colleges ensure students are properly dressed during online sessions which they take from home and not be in home casual clothes?
Just like Professor K.B.N. Murthy said, we need to kind of inculcate and educate our students to say that, it kind of mirrors the real world, and they cannot really have a casual atmosphere when it comes to learning. I mean, sometimes, there have been instances when you kind of have a session and, somebody might be sitting on a chair or might be, even probably resting somewhere. But that needs to be inculcated in the students, in terms of the decorum that one needs to keep. It's part of the protocol, and we need to educate the students that they need to be therefore ready in terms of the classroom or what could be an accepted kind of a thing, because you're going to have student interactions when you're teaching, and they're going to put their videos on. There's going to be interactions, there's going to be questions, and that needs to be maintained. And like everything else, I think we need to kind of make sure the student is actually being told that this will be the part of what is required for them when they are attending the classes.
Definitely. And I would like to add one more thing. At some stage, it is important both from the student side and from the faculty side to have bandwidths where there is possibility, or in fact it should be mandatory for
ಅಷ್ಟು ಜನ
students to put on their
124 ಜನ
videos.
ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
They can switch off their audio, but they should put on their videos, so that there is a certain kind of a decorum which is there when students are hearing. And probably all these things do matter to continue to even both have decorum and also to be effective in an online session. And one more question to Dr. Rony, and then I'll once again, there are a few other questions, but before I move to Dr. Murthy, Dr. Rony, there is a question here on: do you think in the current scenario students will change their choices of universities for admission? It is from Shanta Rangaswamy. And I would also like to probably add, not just change the choices, do you think that they might want to even defer their admissions and probably not go in for higher education?
Now, choice of universities. As I said, we are all hoping that this thing goes away in the next 2 to 3 months. So, choice of universities, will they change because of the current situation? I don't think so, because today's student is quite informed. They do a lot of research before they decide on a particular course that they would want to do, or a particular university. They would. There are a lot of social medias and a lot of information that is available. And I'm sorry, what is the second question, Mr. Garg, you asked?
With regard to the fact that will they defer their admission by a year, and what is the risk of substantial reduced admissions across colleges and universities?
See, I'd like to answer it in 2 ways. Number one is that most parents, like everybody else, is a little wary of what is happening, and therefore even we have found sometimes some parents asking us questions: is it safe for a child to come from outside the city to come and stay? We certainly have looked at all the safety and all the protocol, but coming largely to whether they will defer the year's education, I don't think so, because largely there's losing a year is not there in the Indian scheme of things, or taking a year off. And not only that, probably this is the right time to invest in education, because if you're looking at higher education, like in our case, which is 2 year on the for the management program with the PGPM, I think in 2 years everything would be fine. There will be some explosive growth opportunities there in the market, and if they get onto this the education, and use technology in the interim, everything that everybody is doing to ensure that they learn well, I think they should not defer the admissions for this year. That's my view.
Good, Dr. Rony. And Dr. Murthy, I have a question for you. I think you had already covered it. Probably you can re-emphasize some points. Naveen Dontu asks that I have a question. Everybody talking about latest technologies like blockchain, machine learning, artificial intelligence and all. Do they really practically exist? Apart from research papers, seminars, is there anything really helping for humankind outside? You had already covered it, certain practical aspects, but maybe you might want to just re-emphasize.
As far as this recent technologies are concerned, they have been put into use in some of the places. But there are two important things all of us need to understand. One, we need to use the technology which is going to benefit the scheme of things that we have. Since the technology is available, there's no point in using the technology everywhere. And I was mentioning this recently, wherein we should not get into a situation where the technology is going to take away most of the things which are not supposed to be taken away. Therefore, whatever we do must ensure that the life of the human beings or life of the people, common people, is being comfortable, instead of making any kind of hardship, instead of making any enforcement on their behavioral patterns. As long as they're going to help the community, I think those technologies are going to be extremely useful. Since AI is there, it does not mean that you have to use AI everywhere. Use it at places where it's going to be really helpful, where it's going to benefit the human. For example, robots. If you start using robots everywhere, it may not be a good idea. Therefore, it's necessary for us to use robots only at those places where they are required. For example, if in India, if we use robots for doing everything, I think it's going to take away the kind of jobs that we are talking about. Therefore, it's necessary to use robots at the places where it's difficult for a human being to operate, difficult for a human being to work. Those technologies have to be used in that particular fashion. Definitely, all these things are there beyond the research papers. They're available to be used to the extent to be used.
Yes, some examples I can mention. Dr. Murthy had mentioned during his speech was one was with regard to using AI to answer frequently asked questions. So there are databases which there are private companies also now for every subject. There are going to be frequently asked questions which are generally there. Once those answers are in the system, you don't need to again and again be there to ask those questions. So that's one good example. Admission processes, recruitment processes, the initial part of those things, whether you call machine learning and AI, those are various things which are more scientific, but at the end, they broadly belong to those domains. I think I will try to have a couple of questions. Let me just see who I can address it to. Most of these questions right now, the way I see faculty mentioning, these are all questions related to how to conduct classes online because of probably the kind of challenges that they are facing. Now, Sheila Kumari mentions how to restrict parents not to attend the online classes. It's very difficult to convince parents to follow protocol. So if parents are not supposed to be there, they are not supposed to be there, Sheila. So I think more than that, it is about rules and regulations. But Dr. Murthy, any points?
Yeah, I don't see any problem. The parent attends. What's the big deal? Let them attend. Let them learn. I will rather encourage a parent also to see what's going on in the classroom. Let them tell their children they to behave well. I don't see any problem at all. Let parents attend. I would encourage the parents and students put together. We have double the numbers.
Absolutely.
I have no problem with that. I don't see any problem at all. Because ultimately, the parents in this country, parents pay for their children's education. They also would like to know, at least if a student says the teacher is not good, the parent would say, when I can follow it, what's your problem? You don't seem to study well. If the teacher is really bad, obviously we get a feedback saying that yes, the teacher is very bad, the parent also upload it. I think the kind of feedback we need to be taken more positively than negatively.
Very good point. And I also have a few things. Once again, I'll remind all the things. The talk was of today and tomorrow. Many of the questions are within the context of today. Certainly, there are things which are not possible or they get compromised, like lab sessions, especially in engineering courses where labs are very important, hands-on labs. So Dr. Meena had mentioned how can we conduct practical sessions since we have not moved into virtual reality mode. I believe that there is a little bit of a compromise there, but we are also talking of tomorrow where both these things will exist. The ability of students to get onto the campus plus the fact that now digital education has become quite institutionalized and part of our ecosystem. But Dr. Rony or Dr. Kurien, any points?
Yeah, let me take this question. Professor Murthy here.
Yes, yes.
In the next 6 months to 1 year, we may not be able to get the students on campus. More or less that's where we are from. Hello? It will take close to about 1 year for the student to come to the campus.
Yeah. Please switch off your audio, requesting everybody to switch off your audio.
as it stands today, it may take roughly about 6 to 8 months or 9 months for the entire pandemic to get over. Get over in the sense it may subside a little bit. It will continue to exist for more. If a vaccine to be found and the vaccine to be injected to everybody, it will take a little longer time. Therefore, this semester will definitely be online. Therefore, it is necessary for us to find avenues of handling these labs. The virtual lab is one option that we have, wherein uh, some organizations have developed a highly competitive, very good virtual labs, which can be used directly. And that could be a substitute for the time being.
Yes. One final question to Dr.
Yeah.
Rony. I think we can then conclude, and I'll hand it over to Dr. Subramanya to also conclude after I conclude. Dr. Rony, I think the final question by Lugain Ali and Pallavi is motivations of students. How do we ensure we keep students motivated, especially in the context that they are not getting that physical presence of not just teachers but also their classmates? So how do we ensure motivation when of students?
No, see, this is, I feel there needs to be a little bit of hand-holding that needs to be done with the students. So we certainly have this, faculty and student mentorship programs which are there. And I think that extra reach needs to be done, particularly in the context of which we are operating now, wherein perhaps a couple of times a month, there are certain set of students assigned to a faculty who can actually take them through it, because this is something that all of us are facing at this time, this moment. And we need to kind of handle the students, do kind of mentoring to them, because they also know that this is time is of essence and that they need to learn, and this is the best that we can do. And the fact that their parents are ensuring their education, and this is that we really need to fall in line and ensure that they are attentive, they are present for the classes, and they get maximum amount of learning which can be done. Because from the faculty side also, faculties are also taking that extra effort to make sure that the online learning is a good experience. There are interactive learning methodologies that are being used. There are very good content that is made on with video and graphics to make sure that the concepts are understood by the student. So the student should also be told and made to understand that these are the efforts that the teachers are trying to do in this particular context.
Excellent. I think I'd like to conclude here, but just to add, probably a digital experience need not be just classroom, but they can have various fun sections and even to an extent a cultural activity. At times, I am aware of one of the IIMs who had a very good cultural activity, IIM Kozhikode. They involved alumni, and different people played the different instruments and danced and did all those things from their homes, and they were part of a virtual conference. So at times it's not only studies, but it can be fun also during a digital interaction. So once again, thanks a lot to both Dr. K. Murthy and Dr. Rony Kurien, and thank you for your time, your encouraging or your very insightful comments on the subject. I think it was very comprehensive. I'm sure each one of the people out here have gained from many of the things that you have spoken. We look forward for many such interactions on behalf of the Industry Institute Interface team of BCIC, and I would first thank Prithvi and who gave us the overall direction to move forward on this. And I would thank Dr. Subramanya, who took charge and got this started along with me, and finally Rupa, who has organized this and got this executed. Thank you to the over 120 participants who have patiently listened. By and large, this has gone on very smoothly, and we look forward for many such enriching interactions BCIC continues to arrange a lot of webinars, and they have and we have been doing a lot of webinars on different topics. I'm sure many of them have learned through this, and anything related to education space. In case there is any other webinar you would like us to do, it would be nice. You can leave some comments, or you can send some on this chat box right now, or you of future webinar in the education space, or you can send comments or suggestions to any one of us in the future. So once again, thank you to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
So finally, let me conclude after Nitin has told that the summary of this thing would be that there are a lot of issues which are strategic, tactical, and operational. I think most of the questions are operational in nature to meet the sudden requirements. And then blended learning or hybrid learning will be the next new normal. And every institution should have a digital strategy in place. Then understanding the learning style of the new generation is important rather than looking into the one-way communication. And faculty have to relearn a lot of things to be prepared to face the next kind of post-pandemic situation. Once again, thanking both of you for a wonderful session, and also participants for asking good questions. And we'll be very, very happy to conduct such programs. Any faculty here feel that some kind of such webinars have to be conducted, in fact, you can write to BCIC. In fact, we'll be very happy to conduct through industry institute interface. Myself and Nitin will be very happy to organize. Once again, thanking all of you, and I thank Prithvi and Rupa for organizing this. Thank you, Nitin. Thank you, Kurien, and thank you, KNB Murthy, for wonderful sessions. Thank you all. Stay safe and take care of yourself and your family. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.